Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Dying Wish frontwoman Emma Boster to the podcast. The new Dying Wish record, Symptoms of Survival, is out today on Sharptone Records. Emma talks about the importance of Myspace, being involved in the hardcore scene in Portland, writing and recording during peak COVID lockdowns, how Dying Wish pushed themselves lyrically and musically on the new album, and more. After this interview, go give Symptoms of Survival a spin and start a mosh pit in your living room. If you're a fan of the podcast and wonder how to take your fandom to the next level, you can support the show on Patreon. $1 a month gets you every episode of the podcast early, and then you get more as you give more. Patreon.com/asthestorygrows. You could also just come hang out on Discord, where we chat about music, the music industry, share live music photos, and more. Or join the mailing list. Links are in the show notes. The best way to support the show is to share an episode with a friend or your social circles. Sharing is caring, and word of mouth is still the best way for anything to grow. Enjoy today's conversation with Emma Boster of Dying Wish. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Are you currently out in Portland?
I actually live in Nashville now.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in Nashville and
Not quite as early.
tomorrow, so we can start rehearsals a week before tour.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
What took you to Nashville?
I've lived in Oregon my whole life and I love it, but I just kind of needed a change, especially like when I'm home from tour. I felt like I really needed my space,
Mm-hmm.
So Nashville it's a very like cool, chill vibe. I have friends here, but it's not like an overwhelming amount. So it's been good, relaxing.
That's cool. It's interesting. I find like a lot of people, because they tour in bands, they like to stay where home is and has always been and not like break free from that. So, you grew up in Portland. What was growing up like? Or in that Portland area, I guess.
Well, amazing, I think. I was born in Bend, Oregon, which is Central Oregon. And then my mom went to school at Southern Oregon University, so we had relocated. I lived there until I was 13, and then I moved to Portland, and that's when I started going to shows, because Southern Oregon, there's like no scene at all. But yeah, so I started going to shows. That's how I met my two bandmates. Pedro and Jeff, we went to high school together and we started going to shows together. That's how we became friends. And that's kind of just how I got like integrated into the community there at such a young age. So yeah.
Nice. What got you into music?
I had always loved singing ever since I was little. I would sing and dance around the house at like 2 years old. And I kind of always wanted to be a performer. At a young age, I wanted to, be on American Idol and stuff like that. But then as I got older, my mom was always like into rock music, like No Doubt, and a lot of like the Seattle grunge stuff, like Soundgarden, Nirvana, all of that. So I grew up listening to like alternative music, and then it wasn't until about Myspace when I got into metal and like heavy music, and that's when I hit my stride. Like, okay, this is my thing,
Nice. It's amazing how like social media for a certain generation was like the game changer in like discovering music, and especially that early 2000s metalcore scene.
Right. I feel that way about TikTok right now, honestly. I feel like it's doing the same thing for like a different entire generation of people.
Were you like a theater kid or in choir when you were young, and that was where like performance started?
Yeah, I was in choir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's like, I played sports a little bit growing up. I love basketball. Anyone who follows me on social media knows that. I also played soccer, and as I got older, I just started to like care about that a lot less, and so then I got into choir in middle school, and by the time I graduated, I mean, I was like doing 3 choir classes a day. So
Wow.
that was like my community in high school. If it weren't for that, I probably would have dropped out.
So you talk about like MySpace being your introduction to heavy music and that scene. Like, what were the bands that really impacted you?
Well, I think Bring Me the Horizon was like the first one that I really loved. Drop Dead Gorgeous in Vogue was like one of my favorite records. The Devil Wears Prada. And funny enough, I was a huge Never Shout Never fan when I was in the 8th grade. That I've always kind of loved like folky music as well. And like, I don't know, I'm a girl, so who didn't love Christopher Drew at that time? But lots of that, and then also like Suicide Silence, like more of like the deathcore leaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. The Devil Wears Prada is such a funny band because by the time they hit the scene, I was probably in my mid-20s and I was like, yeah, I'm too fucking old for this now.
They like kind of invented, Jeremy and I talk about it all the time. They kind of invented like their own thing, and then you saw a lot of other bands like take suit. Like, they didn't invent metalcore, but they invented their own way, like them and like Bring Me, of like the haircuts and like skinny jeans and like all of that stuff. And now like they're still playing music in their 30s, like making rock albums, which is cool.
Yeah. I just saw them live like 2 weeks ago. They were incredible. So I've come full circle on them.
Where did you see
that? The Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland.
Oh, very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it was rad. How did at what point did you go from like I'm a fan of this music to I need to be in a band?
I think it didn't start at I need to be in a band. It started when I was 16. Started going to hardcore shows. I knew I wanted to be involved in more ways than just attending. So I would like try to make flyers for shows or like rides to shows. And then a few years down the line, I started booking. And then once I started booking shows, I realized there were not a lot of bands in Portland, and I'd always wanted to be in a band. So then I started a band, and that's kind of how it started. I was booking all of these bands that I wanted to come through Portland because, it was a very DIY scene. It's changed quite a bit since then. And so I was like, well, 2 birds, 1 stone, start a band, have more bands to play the shows, and then I can play with all the bands that I want to play with.
Yeah, that's cool. How easy or difficult was that transition from like choir singer to hardcore vocalist?
I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, but it was more about, the message behind the music and like the community. And I knew I would just like kind of figure all the other stuff out later.
Yeah. Talk to me about the origins of Dime Wish.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, Pedro, Jeff, and I went to middle school together. And so we had started a band before Dying Wish that kind of we like fizzled out, but the 3 of us stayed in the band. And then we asked Sam to join, who's our guitar player. And he used to play in a band called Safe and Sound. And we were like, yo, dude, you should be in Dying Wish and, like help us write music. Because we don't really, it's not that we didn't know how, but like we wanted to be a metalcore band, and like Sam was at writing metalcore. So he joined the band, and that's kind of where we got like the a lot of like the Kill Switch inspiration from was at with him becoming a part of the group, we then really talked about and decided like what exactly it was we wanted to accomplish from this group. And that was in 2017. And so, you know, we put out our first demo in 2018. We did a split in 2019, and then Enemies in Red in 2019. And then it just kind of all happened from there very organically.
Nice. Where'd the band name come from?
That was a Pedro thing. You can identify when you listen to our music what lyrics I write and what lyrics Pedro writes. And like we do collaborate on it a lot. Stuff like Cowards Bleed, like that's a Pedro song. He just has a dark part of his mind that he can unlock. And so he's always been really good at writing songs, but especially song titles and song names. And he was the one that came up with Dying Wish. And we were just like, yeah, I mean, it's cool and it can't be beat. And then as time goes on, it just feels like that name is perfect for us.
Nice. What led you guys to Sharptone Records?
We did our first like big tour in 2019 with Counterparts. We were just like regional support at the time for them, but Stray from the Path was on the tour, and I became friends with Tom Williams. And then a couple months later down the line, he hit me up like, do you guys not have a manager? And I was like, no, like I kind of do all of that stuff. And he was like, what? Like, you guys should have a manager. And I was like, okay, well, do you know anybody? And he was like, yeah, me. And I was like, all right, dude. So we talked about it, and it, you know, just became clear he was like the perfect person for the band. And we were sitting on an 8 Thirst at the time. We had just finished that song. And he was like, okay, I'm going to send this song around and shop to a bunch of labels. And, you know, we at the time wanted to be on Pure Noise. But it just became evident that Sharptone was going to be the label that believed in us. And, you know, I also kind of like being on that label because we're pretty different from a lot of the other bands. You know, sonically, we sound a lot more like a metalcore band. And so it's cool just like being the dark horse and like having an extra edge on that label. And Sean and everyone there is just so that's how we landed, the best label in the world.
Yeah. Listening to like Fragments for the first time, it definitely reminds me of like that classic like late 90s metalcore more than, you know, the mid 2000s. So yeah. I read an article that you guys recorded Fragments summer 2020. What was that experience like?
Oh man.
Other than awful.
Experience writing a record, because we had only ever done EPs before, you know, but we'd written at home. But we flew all the way to Belleville, New Jersey to work with Randy LaBeouf, and it was we were there for 5 weeks, and it was peak COVID, so there were no guests. There was, you know, like no like leaving really. I mean, you could like leave. I would leave and like go to the gym down the street, but that was about it. Just because, you know, we wanted to make sure everyone was safe. And but for the most part, we're just in this big warehouse writing our first record. And honestly, it was really immersive, and that felt good. But since then, our studio has moved to out into the like rural New Jersey, and, you know, out in a cabin, and that's like much more my speed as like the immersive process goes.
Yeah. Last year, you guys did a handful of tour dates with Limp Bizkit. How'd you guys end up doing that tour, and what was that experience like?
Well, I'd like to thank TikTok because earlier, but Fred Durst actually discovered Dying Wish. There was this video of us playing Midnight Hour in San Fernando Valley, and we didn't have a bass player because our bass player got sick with COVID and flew home. It wasn't like a proper PA, so we were just like playing with no bass. But it was a great show, and Fred, it like kind of went viral on TikTok, and Fred saw it, and then he was like, I got to tour with this band, and sent a tour offer. It was kind of crazy and that simple.
It's kind of cool that a band of that nature like picked like you guys and Scal and like this next generation of like heavier bands across different genres to be support for this tour.
Yeah. Shout out, honestly. I think that's really cool that they wanted to do that, you know, because I think that they knew they could sell tickets no matter what.
The new album's called Symptoms of Survival. Where'd the title come from?
Well, it's the title track. The first song is the title track, and it has the word "symptoms of survival" in the song. And the song is written about it's written about war and about how, you know, people go into war for decades and basically become a victim of control by enlisting, thinking that they're going to do the right thing, and then it kind of takes this evil turn as you realize that, you know, you're basically just a cog in the machine fighting other people who have similar interests, but you guys are on opposite sides. And so we kind of wanted to broaden the spectrum of what we talk about on this record. And so that song is essentially about that, but it just kind of encompasses the idea of the record very well, because we talk about, you know, all different kinds of means of survival, whether that be mental health or war or so on and so forth throughout the record. So it just felt like a good kind of like summarization of that.
Yeah. What led to the decision to write kind of more broader themes lyrically? Was it just like, I said all the personal shit I want to say last record, or just like trying to push yourselves?
Both, honestly. I felt like that, and like we also wanted to kind of show have grown so much as people and as artists. Myself, I feel I have grown a lot from the places that I was when I wrote Fragments, especially the title track. So I wanted to kind of like show this unlayering of myself that I've gone through in the last 2.5-year process since writing the last record. And just kind of show that like Dying Wish is continuing to grow and we're on this new level, and like that is natural part of the human process, is to challenge yourself through different levels of grief and you know, continue to keep an open mind about where you are in the world and things.
Yeah. In addition to this lyrical change, like, did you guys talk about doing some different things musically? Because there's a lot more melodic moments on this record, a little more singing. It's still super heavy with crazy breakdowns, but like you do have this melodic side that's like very prominent.
Right. We definitely wanted to lean into that a little more, but honestly, the songs that we chose for the singles, we just thought were the best singles that the record could provide. There are songs that are just really heavy hitters, and they don't really have that melodic side. I think the cool thing about Dying Wish is that we just write whatever we want. And so while we do have that melodic side and it is a lot more apparent on this record, we also did really lean into the heavier songs, like Pull No Punches. But we also branched out and like wrote a song with like 95% clean singing that's like a ballad, and you know, tried to incorporate like different songwriting processes and stuff like that. So it is just very different from Fragments.
Yeah. Do you approach it like, we want to write the best record we can, and like whatever translates live, and what's on the record is there? Or do you have this like, you know, we want to try the ballad live, right?
We're gonna do it live, and
okay.
It's very much, but not out, because we want it to resonate, and if it doesn't, then we won't play it anymore. You know, that. We're like, we want to play it for like a week, see how it goes. If it, after people know it and it doesn't go over well, or if it just like pulls the vibe down too much, then we'll get rid of it, and I feel like we're pretty, we do care about the live experience a lot. We do a lot. And so we definitely do write a record with that in mind, especially songs that we know we're going to put in the set. Like, oh, this is the part where we could do like a pile-on gang vocal and stuff like that. It's important for us to resonate that way with people.
Yeah. It's like you go from like this ass beating breakdown to the ballad. It's like, it's all there still.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who did the album artwork?
That is, oh my God, pause. Work hard and Paul Romano. Thank you. He's the one that did the album artwork. He's actually worked with Mastodon since almost the beginning of their career. So he's done all of that incredible artwork that you've seen throughout the years. He's done over 200 different album covers. And, he was a pleasure to work with. He's just so good at what he does.
Nice. I recently read an interview with Kat from Scow talking about being protective of herself on tour and the band and her personal space, because like men in the genre and men in general do not have a great reputation for being awesome. So like, how has touring been for you? And like, there's way more like female visibility in the scene these days. I mean, one of the biggest bands in the scene is fucking Spirit Box. And like when I was in my teens, we had Candace and Balls of Jericho, and that was it. So like, what is touring been like for you, and just kind of how are you protecting your space on tour and making sure you're feeling safe?
I've been lucky to tour with a lot of amazing I've also been lucky to tour with a lot of amazing men. I have like, I kind of put up like a no BS thing, which isn't to say that other women don't, but I feel I've been, really lucky when it comes to my circle within the tour. It kind of always depends on like when you leave and walk into the room and you're all of these new people on a daily basis. That's when I start to feel a little like I don't really know what to expect. I've had pretty good luck. I can't say that, it's been perfect, but I do feel lucky that I haven't been subjected to a lot of really toxic masculinity, like within touring crews yet. So, and when it does happen, you'll probably hear about it. So,
yeah. Well, the album's out November 3rd. You guys are about to go on tour. Is that your only tour this year? And what's the future plans look like for you guys?
That is our only tour this year. We did Europe and the UK earlier this year with Counterparts. But besides that, we went from doing 5 full US tours last year to this being the only US tour we're doing this year. Next year, our plan is to hit it hard again like we did last year. We have our album cycle to promote. So we're going to Australia with the Acacia Strain and Volatile Ways. And then we come back and we'll be doing a bunch of stuff on the ground here next year too. So keep an eye out for that.
Nice. I've talked to a few people who have different perspectives on this. You guys have put out a bunch of music videos and singles leading up to the record release. Do you have plans to, like, once the record's out, like songs that are later in the album that don't get the single treatment to get video treatments as like a second life?
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. We have plans along that, and then a little bit of an extension. You know what I'm saying? So,
okay. Nice. Yeah. Awesome.
If we get to it, we'll see. Trying to make as much time for that kind of like extracurricular stuff as much as possible.
Yeah. It's like you want the album to have as much life as possible, and people only check it out in small snippets. And it's like, you put your hard work into this, you want it to have more life.
Exactly. And there's songs that are finished off of the record that didn't make the record. So who knows what we'll do with those.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just attack it and never look back. It's wild and fantastic. All together at full power, we're so much better. What's that word?